Okay, Rick Medina with Alien Play Games, introducing the Superbeings Jumbo Card Game card specifications. So let's take a look at the attributes of a Super Being card. Our test subject will be Grolem, the Clone Brute. On this, one thing obvious to the Super Beings game that's unique is that each super card is double-sided. We have a pro side or protect side, or defense side essentially, so pro and defense are synonymous. And then on his back side is the reverse side is his attack side or POW side or power. So POW and power, attack. Pro, protect, defense. All right. So we'll start with the pro side. And then in the text it's considered pro mode. All right. So while this character or super is in pro mode, his defense side says, okay, I have 9 health. All right. So pro health is 9. Now this pro health works independently to his POW health, which is 8. All right, so what that means is if he gets hit with 9 or 10 damage, he has to be 1 over the 9. If he had 9, he'd still not suffer any consequence with this mode. But on 10, he would have to be flipped to POW mode. He's forced to flip. He would not be knocked out in this mode here unless he was on a backliner. So there's a front line and a back line in the game. While he's a backliner, he can never be in this mode here, but he can be knocked out as a backliner if he suffers 10 damage. But on the front line, he's then flipped over. So that's basically what's important about the pro health as far as how to handle damage. All right, so we have the pro health, and we have his name, we have his archetype, he's a brute. These stars represent the action credits required for him to become a leader. A leader is, you get 1 on your side if you wish to have one, and he gains certain advantages. So that's important to know this. All right, going further down, we have his tagline is the Super Punch, or nickname. Basically, his name again, his archetype brute, and then we have a stat line. His alliance link is the lay life, his homeworld, and his height and weight. You have his quote. Then we have every super has a story, a flavor, a little something about what makes them almighty. In this case, Grolem's might. There is 2 storylines to the Super Beings universe going on. Our plot lines are the ongoing alliance wars between A-Life and N-Life. A-Life being artificial life and N-Life being natural life. So those alliances are predominant in the game. There is a X-Life as well. All right, so, and then the A-Life represented by androids, beasts, and clones, and the N-Life is natural life of humans and aliens. X-Life is for extraterrestrial or X-Pets. All right, so those covers the alliances, factions as well. All right, so we have, again, each super has a story flavor I mentioned, and then the card number for the set. The set he's linked to, in this case, Battle of the Universe, the core set. Of importance also is the super rank. Every character has a super rank. And in this case, Grolem has super rank 4. This is the amount of action credits required for him to be able to put on the front line from the back line. So he's summoned to the front line from the back line. So you have to have 4 action credits to do so. All right, so that covers the attributes of the pro side of a card. Basically, what's important is the leader cost, these actions here, the summoning to the front line cost of 4, and this also is the retreat cost to go back to the back line. So summoning the front line, retreating back line, and then we have the pro health, the amount of damage he can take before he's actually inflicted to go to the attack side. Now obviously you can always initiate an attack by flipping a guy over to this mode. If he has damage in this mode, pro mode, he cannot just flip. So you'd have to be healed to 0 cost pro sidewise in order to be flipped. That's while he's on the front line. Now you can always summon a guy in the back line to the front line if he has damage. So these rules are specific in the rule book, and we'll cover that in the game and the game video as well, how to play. All right, so what we have now is significant on the POW side are basically his attack side are his POW health. So this super Grolem can take 8 damage. If he takes 9 damage, he's KO'd and he's knocked out of the game. All right, and then we have his basically this here cost is his attack cost. So every attack phase, this system, the game plays in using the phase system. The attack phase is is where you can you'll initiate a roll, a die roll, to gain how many attack credits you get for your turn. And in this case, it requires 3 attack credits, and those are linked to the yellow attack aligned here. In this case, his main attack. So this is a superpower, his main attack, and his invincibility. Every super has the same functionality. All right, so they don't vary. So it's really specific. You have a superpower for every super. You have a main attack for every super. You have invincibility effect for every super. So let's go over those in detail. The superpower is always triggered based on the phase trigger here. It never varies. So there's 5 phases in the system, in the game. There's a start phase, there's an action phase, there's an early attack phase. In this case, this is early attack phase, this is trigger. So once during your early attack phase, this superpower, Super Mega Punch, can be performed. All right, so this character, while in POW mode, you'll be able to perform this. You cannot do a superpower in Pro mode. You'd have to have it visible, showing on this, on the battlefield. And when you're in early attack phase, you can then perform this if you meet the condition. All right, so that's basically superpowers. Every superpower, every super will have one, and you'll have the phase trigger right there every time. So like on EQ2's case here, we have once during your attack phase. So his superpower is triggered in the attack phase, and they'll have them even on defense. There'll be superpowers that are on defense. So look for those as well. So you have the five phases and then on defense. So that's what superpower is. You can use those as the text indicates, based on the phase trigger. All right, and then we have the main attack. So this is where you'll focus when you're attacking. Now you might have attacks as well in the superpower, but you could do both if you do, providing you meet the text condition. All right, so back to this link here. This 3 action credits ties into the main attack. It's really simple. So in this case, Grolem takes 3 attack credits, to perform his Elastic Tail Exploding Meteor Mace. So, and if you don't have enough attack credits, you can't perform that attack. As simple as that. So, and you may be able to attack 3 times with Grolem if you had 9 attack credits. So you can attack multiple times, again, based on how many attack credits you have. All right, so going forward, we have also invincibility effect. Every character super has an invincibility effect. Basically means if this character, by default, the invincibility effect only comes into play after 2 KOs. So that is the standard default. So you won't even use that effect, you cannot, until only when it's triggered based on 2 KOs by the character. So the invincibility effect is in there to balance the game with respect to having guys knock out too many characters, too many opposing supers. So we just wanted to have basically 2 as the max. And there's a rule set for invincibility, but the standard rule is if he knocks out 2 characters, he's then taken from the game and put back under the super deck. All right, so invincibility effect once it's active, the effect in this case inflict 10 damage to an exped would then be performed. So just so you have all the details, we have the superpower triggered by the phase trigger. We have his main attack based on the attack credits required to perform it, and we have an invincibility effect that's triggered basically after 2 knockouts. Now there are instances where the invincibility effect is performed after 1 knockout, and maybe just based on how the text indicates. But generally, it'll always say that. So if it says after 1 knockout, this invincibility effect comes into play, then there's a few of those. Some supers will go invincible after 1 knockout, but the standard rule is 2. Okay, so look for the rule book specifically. There's several rules to know about invincibility effect, and but again, we're talking every character, every superpower, 1 main attack, and 1 invincibility effect. All right, so that covers the basically the POW side or attack side for a Super Being card. So we'll look at this one for a second. Again, double-sided, Pro side, POW side. All right, so that said, let's take a peek at maybe KO here to just reinforce what we're talking about. In his case, he has 4 action credits required to become a leader. He has 7 pro health. He has a super rank of 3, so his cost is a little less, 3 action credits to be summoned to the front line. And then on this POW side, it takes 4 attack credits to perform his smashing uppercut. He's basically got 7 POW health, so it takes 8 damage to knock him out. And his superpower is performed in the early attack phase, so look for that. Again, the phases are as follows. You have the start phase where you draw 1 card. You then have the action phase where you get 3 action credits at the beginning. And then you have the early attack phase before the attack phase, and then the final end phase. So those are the phases. And then we have the invincibility effect, again, is performed after it gets 2 KOs. So that covers all the real attributes of both the Pro and POW side. Not designed to be overwhelming. It's just specific, and it requires just that set skill of knowledge to be able to identify all those attributes to be able to play the game. Again, we'll start with the when you play the game. If you're not too ripe about how to play all these effects, then I would suggest you start with the starter game, the fast play game, where you just basically don't use the effects, and you're just playing with dice to attack and defend until you get used to some of the just the commonality of attacking. All right, so let's get into the battle cards. Battle cards are basically there's 3 types, and right now in the standard game, for the main game actually. So let's start with the Super Team card. Basically the Super Team card, there's basically in the first set there'll be 8 of them, and how this works is that when you initiated a leader from one, if you have all these 3 supers on the field and one of them is a leader, then this effect, a game-changing kind of bonus effect, becomes active. So you got to have this card in your hand, and then it's played once you've met that condition. So in this case, Super Team Ultron with Rivalus, with was it Nanara? Not Nanara. With Nerona and Engage. If you have all 3 of those supers on the battlefield, and one is your leader, then this card can be activated. And in this case, it gets a bonus effect here. So those are timely to use Super Team cards. If one of the characters or supers becomes knocked out, or if you don't have one of them as a leader, then this card becomes is negated and is discarded. So just know that. So it's you're going to basically have one of these in your deck. You're going to want to look for those bonus effects to perform these if you can gain those combinations. All right, so those are pretty cool. Super Teams are designed. There's a variety of those out there, so you can collect or basically find these characters and build them as part of your deck. All right, next is the Tactic card. These guys are used for one time from your hand and then discarded. So Tactic offense, there's 2 types. There's basically the description will say, or the tag or mark here will say offense. It'll also say offense here. So it's real simple to identify what a Tactic offense card is in your hand. So in this case, also you'll look for phase triggers when it can be used. So during your turn on offense, once during your action phase, you can perform this tactic called multi-skill. All right, so really simple to use. Look for offensive tactics as well then as of defensive tactics. This is a defensive one. Simply says on defense. That's when you can use this card. All right, so we have the tactic cards, and they're played from your hand if you meet the condition and then discarded. All right, so those are simple. The scheme cards are a little more challenging to use. They're basically where you would play them from your hand and then they're put out on the battlefield if you can meet the condition. You'll have, in this case, there's an offense type, And there's two types of scheme cards. There's a timer, they call it, and a continuous. So we'll get into that as well. Okay, so let's start with this offensive scheme card called End Life Dominance. The scheme offense, in this case, will be always shown here, offense, the tag, and same here. It's a 2-timer, so once during your start phase, in this case, this card, if triggered, you'll be able to use it 2 times. That means that it's going to be put out on the field, placed down, face up, and while it's active, it's on the battlefield outside of the front lines, and it stays there until you fail. So in the second time you try using it and you fail the condition, it's discarded. All right, so that's simple what the 2-timer is. So the first time you bring it out, it stays out there, you can use it a second time as well if you meet the condition. The continuous one will always stay active as long as you meet the condition, and that's their difference. So you'll find that it's just simple, look for 2-timers and look for continuous ones. In this case, it's an on-defense scheme card. All right, so you can have only 2 schemes out on the battlefield at one time. And you can always discard one from the field if you just don't want to use it anymore if it's active. So you'll have to actually burn, or it requires the cost of 1 action to remove an active scheme card from the battlefield. All right, but you can only have 2 out there at one time. Okay, so that covers the scheme cards and the rest of the battle cards. Look for, again, both offensive, defensive scheme cards and tactic cards, so you can build your deck accordingly. And then the super team. There's no limit to the amount of these battle cards you can have in your 25-card battle deck. We'll get into the deck building attributes when we show you the how to play game, or look for those in the how to play game at the beginning. But the standard rule is you're going to build a deck of 25 super cards. The whole master deck contains 2 separate decks, one of 25 of these guys and 25 battle cards. The battle cards have the Superbeing logo on the back, and that's the only thing. And you'll draw from these 1 card at a time per turn. All right, so that is, in a nutshell, the card specifications. And we'll make sure you do check out the how to play games. We're going to have the starter rule game, which is basically, the starter game is the fast play game, as well as the how to play the full-length main game playthrough. All right, thanks.